What if I told you that Europe's greatest symbol of unity, the euro, was never meant to survive on trust alone? That behind every shiny coin and blue banknote lies a story of compromise, crisis, and control, an experiment so bold it nearly tore Europe apart? This is the story of how Europe tried to unite not through borders but through money, and how that dream became a struggle for survival. Welcome to the euro creation, the grand experiment in shared money. The euro story begins not with banks or economists but with war. 2 world wars had left Europe scarred, divided, and broke. By the late 1940s, the continent was in ruins. Cities were rubble, industries destroyed, and currencies worthless. But amid the devastation, a radical idea emerged: unity through cooperation. The first step came with coal and steel, the foundation of the European Coal and Steel Community in 1951. Then came the Treaty of Rome in 1957, establishing the European Economic Community, a vision of economic cooperation where war would become, in the words of French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman, not only unthinkable but materially impossible. But unity had one major obstacle: money. Each country had its own currency: the French franc, the German mark, the Italian lira, the Dutch guilder. And each was tied to its own economic priorities and its own inflation rates and its own political pressures. The dream of one Europe was impossible unless Europe could somehow share a single currency. But to understand how that dream was born, we have to look at the one country that didn't want it: Germany. After World War II, Germany rebuilt faster than anyone expected. The Deutsche Mark became a symbol of strength, stable, powerful, respected. In a Europe plagued by inflation, the Deutsche Mark was rock solid. Germans trusted it. Investors loved it. And their central bank, the Bundesbank, was feared across Europe. Whenever another country's economy wobbled, the Bundesbank's decision sent shockwaves across borders. For smaller countries, this was frustrating. They wanted growth, lower interest rates, but Germany called the shots. As one French official once complained, "We live in a Deutschmark zone, not a European one." The push for a shared currency then was partly political, a way to keep Germany's power in check. France and its allies believed, if Europe shares one currency, no single country can dominate the rest. And after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, this idea gained urgency. Germany was reunifying, its power was growing again. And so, Europe made a deal. Germany could reunite, but only if it gave up the Deutschmark and joined a common European currency. The dream was set in motion in 1992 with the Maastricht Treaty, the blueprint for the euro. Its goals were bold: a single currency for Europe, a shared central bank, and strict rules to keep inflation and debt under control. But even from the start, economists warned, you can't share money without sharing government, because in normal countries, when a region falls into recession, the national government can transfer money tax from the rich, help the poor, and balance things out. But in Europe, each nation had its own government. They would share a currency but not a budget, no shared taxes, no shared debt, one money but many masters. It was an experiment no one had ever tried before. Despite doubts, the project moved forward. On January 1st, 1999, the euro was officially launched, first as a digital currency. Then, in 2002, the physical euro coins and banknotes entered circulation. 12 countries abandoned centuries of monetary history overnight. For many Europeans, it felt like the dawn of a new era, peace through money. But under the surface, cracks were already forming. At its heart, the euro tried to unite two very different Europes. The North, disciplined, efficient, export-driven, led by Germany, and the South, looser with spending, reliant on tourism and public jobs, led by Italy, Spain, and Greece. Under the euro, southern nations could borrow cheaply just like Germany. Banks believed the shared currency made everyone equally safe. So billions flowed from the north to the south, fueling construction booms, property bubbles, and easy debt. For a while it seemed to work, but this wasn't real convergence, it was credit illusion. And when the illusion broke, the dream of a united Europe would face its greatest test. The year was 2008. Financial storm began in the United States and soon swept across the world. Europe's banks, heavily invested in risky assets, began to crumble. Suddenly, investors realized not all euro countries were equal. Greece's debt looked nothing like Germany. Italy's economy was stagnant. Ireland's banks were collapsing under ISO. Yet none of these countries could print their own money anymore. They had no control over interest rates, no ability to devalue their currency. The euro had taken away their most important tool, and now they were trapped. By 2010, the Greek debt crisis exploded. Government books revealed massive deficits hidden for years. Investors fled. Bond yields spiked. The euro, once a symbol of strength, became a question mark. Could countries as different as Germany and Greece survive under one currency? The answer was uncertain. The European Union faced its greatest existential threat since its founding. Bailouts were announced first for Greece, then Ireland, then Portugal. Germany demanded austerity cuts to spending, higher taxes, smaller governments. Southern Europe resisted, arguing that austerity deepened the recession. Protests filled the streets of Athens, Madrid, Rome. Europe's family was tearing itself apart. The very thing that was meant to unite money was now dividing. But in 2012, one man stepped forward and uttered three words that changed everything. Mario Draghi, the president of the European Central Bank, said, "Whatever it takes." The ECB would do whatever it took to preserve the euro. With that promise, the panic began to fade. Markets calmed. The euro survived. But it came at a price: deeper centralization, stricter rules, and political resentment that still simmers today. The euro proved it could survive crisis, but not without scars. Unemployment in Greece and Spain soared above 25%. Youth joblessness hit 50%. Entire generations felt betrayed by a system that promised stability and delivered suffering. Economists began asking, was the euro too ambitious? Yet even critics agreed dismantling it would be worse. The euro had become a political necessity, not because it worked perfectly, but because its collapse would mean the collapse of Europe itself. The euro survived the 2010s. But new challenges awaited, from Brexit to the COVID-19 pandemic to rising nationalism and inflation. Each crisis tested the idea that nations could share sovereignty over their money and still remain free. And today that question remains unanswered. If history teaches us anything, it's that shared money is never just economics, it's power. The United States learned this in 1907 when a banking panic led to the creation of the Federal Reserve. Europe learned it in 1999 when a currency born of hope nearly fell to chaos. And now, as digital currencies and crypto challenge the old system, the lessons of the euro echo louder than ever. Money is trust, trust is fragile, and without a shared purpose, no shared currency can survive. The euro began as a dream, a symbol of peace after centuries of war. It became an experiment in unity without uniformity and shared destiny without shared government. And though it's been tested by crisis after crisis, it still stands. Whether it thrives or falls depends not on markets, but on people's faith that a shared money can still mean a shared future. Lesson 1. You can't share money without sharing responsibility. Lesson 2. In every union, trust is the real currency. Lesson 3. Even perfect systems fail if people lose faith in them. The euro changed the world once, but can it survive the next storm? That's the question Europe and the world must answer. If you want to understand how money shapes power and how history keeps repeating, subscribe, hit the bell, and join us for the next deep dive into the history of money.